All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Achakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops, that great millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Knapp, coming out with a lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. I found this on the BBC. It says, Duck not thrilled with Iran after latest talks on nuclear program. So, he went over there and tried to talk about how, I don't even know all the stipulations that he had on Iran, but I know that he didn't get what he was looking for. So Iran is either ready for war or they're not going for that whatever his demands were. All right, so you can tell that in this time that he ain't really being respected like like he's telling you Babylonians. He going over there, he getting disrespected over there. You typically sit down, they're scared of you. They'll come up with a plan. All right, listen, we'll do anything you say. But he's not getting that effect anymore. He going over there, and they basically tell him, go get the fuck out of here the fuck out of here. In a political sense, when you're not doing what he's telling you to do to bring him to the negotiation table, he's bringing all these different armadas and all this other crap. If that's not scaring them. That shit ain't working anymore. Let's read a little bit about this. This is President Duck has said he is not happy with Iran in the wake of the latest talks on its nuclear program, but said he had not yet decided whether to attack the country. Yeah, you don't want to attack them. You know better than that. Why? Because they already disclosed how capable they actually are. So you putting everybody in harm's way. You just retracted your troops from Beirut last time I heard, and I'm sure he took them from other places too. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to attack. It just shows you that, that he got to be more strategic. Before he bombed their nuclear site. He said it was over. It was obliterated, but clearly it's not. You still got to negotiate, but he lying to you. So the real facts that on the ground ain't what he's telling you. Because he wouldn't even be negotiating with him like he was a couple of months ago when he first bombed that place. It says, I'm not happy with the fact that they're not willing to give us what we have to have. So I'm not thrilled, Duck said in his first comments on negotiations in Geneva that broke up on Thursday without a deal. Yeah, how you going to leave without a deal? And that's not the smoke you want anyways, man. His foreign policies, they're horrific. Esau, no matter how you put it, they're not good at foreign policy. All they do is know how to destabilize a country. The U.S. president stressed that he did not want to use military force against Iran, but said sometimes you have to. So, all right, you got to do what you got to do. All right. But, I got some other articles that show you that it ain't going to be easy like he thinks it's going to be. Concern over the prospect of U.S. strikes against Iran led a number of countries to issue warnings to their citizens in the region on Fridays. And I know China told its citizens in Israel and Iran to pretty much be prepared for what's going on in the Middle East. This can get out of hand. They're not giving any these warnings for no reason. Now, I don't know what warnings he's telling his own people, but that's what the other countries are telling their people to be ready. And hey, that's what you got to tell your own people too. You should be awake. You should be knowing what's going on in the world. If you're not, then you're dead. The Lord told us to be occupied and watch as well as pray. So that's what we're doing. We're watching and we're praying to the Lord that none of these things fall upon us. And there's so many things that can happen before we even get to this, but we got to stay focused on what the Lord wants us to stay focused on and cast our burdens on him. This is the UK temporarily withdrew staff from its embassy in Tehran and updated its travel guidance to advise against all but essential travel to Israel. Yeah, all but essential travel to Israel because Iran got war with Israel. That's why they're advising them, because technically they don't have any weapons that could hit America, but they can hit Israel. And they got all these different embassies in these different countries, and that's why these different countries are warning their diplomats to be ready. Just pretty much watch, pay attention to whatever guidelines there are. Make sure pretty much get your house in order, man. You're in a targeted area. Countries including China, India, and Canada urged their citizens to leave Iran as soon as possible due to the prospect of hostilities. Germany advised urgently against travel to Israel, while France reiterated its advice not to do so. Yeah, don't go to Israel. Yeah, you could, but it's more focused on Israel. You got Israel, because they know the duck is going over there to negotiate these terms because they don't benefit America to be doing all this stuff. They already agreed to dilute their missiles. They agreed to a lot of things, but he keeps turning the goalposts. So it's one thing, then it's another. Now there's citizens over there. I mean, they got American citizens over there. It's just like, what's the point of us even talking, man? You talking so much shit, and I can't even imagine if there's nearly as half of the shit that he's saying, because he fucking lies so damn much. You don't know what the hell to believe. Meanwhile, the U.S. urged its citizens in Iran to leave immediately. Its embassy in Israel also told some non-emergency staff and their families they could leave the country, advising that they may wish to do so while commercial flights are available. So America's telling you, get the fuck out of there, man. Get out of Israel. So we might start hearing about missiles flying in the near future. Which, it's all hoop, at this point. But you see what's going on in Pakistan with Taliban. So these wars are kicking back off. There's new battlefronts being, more fires being kindled every single day. And people think you could just, sleep on this and think, all right, well, that's far away. That ain't going to happen to me. You'll see how this all affects you in the near future. The Lord told you about all these things before it happened. You're going to start to see, especially as it gets hotter and hotter, they're going to start sending more people over there. All right? In different positions. It might be a battle here, but he don't want you. He might start sending you to Africa. You be like, damn, I thought, you don't know where. There's so many battles. Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico. Where you want to go? Ukraine. These countries might start taking vows that they all got to send their citizens to this. It's a world war. Every country got to send a certain amount of troops to specific areas in order to keep peace in that area. Or whatever, you got to prepare your mind for that. Duck has threatened military action against Tehran if it does not reach a deal about its nuclear ambitions. Yeah, its nuclear ambitions is, now they probably they better create one that's, that can, they already got the technology. All they need is to propel it even more. What's so hard about that? Russia can do that. They got all the information and they're allies with Russia. So Russia can tell them how to do that. That's a fax away. Well, I don't think they're going to send highly classified information via the fax machine. But it goes to show you all you got to do is send somebody over there and he'll just talk to them directly. I'll show you how to do it from scratch. They already have the technology, man. You don't have to rebuild the wheel, man. Washington and its allies suspect, he has ordered the largest U.S. military buildup in the Middle East since the U.S.-led invasion in Iraq in 2003, while Iran has vowed to respond to an attack with force. So if they're vowing to respond to an attack with force, man, already goes to show you that's the weak saying, I am strong. Meanwhile, all this rhetoric about Iran, you're not hearing nothing about North Korea and how many weapons he got. He's keeps coming up with, I got this weapon, that weapon. They don't even report it. So you talking about Iran like that's a major threat, and it's Kim Jong-un that got his shit on. He's ready to go. So at any moment that can be something else too. He's already vowed to send troops into the Ukrainian war. So that's just another problem that's just waiting in the bushes. This is Washington and its allies suspect Iran is moving towards developing a nuclear weapon, which Tehran has always denied. It claims its program is intended for peaceful civilian purposes, despite having enriched uranium up to near weapons grade level. Yeah, that's the weak saying I'm strong. They're enriching that nuclear because guess what? The Lord is about to fulfill prophecy. So he's putting the spirit on these kings to fulfill his will. And if he wants the uranium enriched, it's going to be enriched. And there's nothing nobody can do about it. The president told reporters on Friday, I say no enrichment. I think it's uncivil, says the man who uses the most violent man in the world. It came as Oman's foreign minister Badr al-Busadi, who was mediating the talks, said Tehran had agreed never to stockpile enriched uranium, making the enrichment argument less relevant. If you cannot stockpile material that is enriched, then there is no way you can actually create a bomb, al-Busadi told CBS News. He had said on Thursday that U.S. and Iranian officials made significant progress in the high-stakes nuclear talks in Geneva, but the chances of a deal that could avert a war remain unclear. It's always going to remain unclear when you got someone that covered something that you have. And you got to be ready, and he got to try to get you off guard. Okay? But they're not going to go out like that if they do go out. And plus, they got prophecy on their side. These heathen, they've been preparing for this day for a long time. They've been hip to this even before. They've been trying, they already knew this was going to be a problem for a long time, man. A long time. And they knew they're ready for it. This whole time they've been preparing for war. Al-Busadi said the two sides plan to resume negotiations soon after consultations in their capitals and technical level discussions would take place next week in Vienna. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who led his country's delegation, said good progress had been made, but while there had been agreement on some issues, differences remained on others. He said more negotiations would happen in less than a week. President Duck's comments on Friday were the first official reaction from the U.S. Yeah, so more negotiations would happen in less than a week. Okay, so is his threat null and void now? What about that 10 to 15 day bullshit you was talking about? Now you're not going to do anything? Or, what's up with that? Even if your plan is to do what you did last time, clearly you're going to be back in this same spot a couple months later. You're going to get all this praise, yeah, I bombed this and that, and everyone's going to be happy. The same spot you were a couple months ago when he bombed the two or three nuclear sites. So that's ineffective. It says locations show where vessel is thought to be operating, not exact position. Vessels shown are known assets in the region in the week beginning 23rd of February. Meanwhile, the State Department announced USS State Mark Rubio would travel to Israel on Monday, where he's expected to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu and discuss a range of regional priorities, including Iran. How much is more here? Long story short, they didn't come up with a deal, and Esau doesn't like that. But he still got all these threats that he threw out there that are going to fall on deaf ears. And when you don't back up your threat, it just makes you look weak. Makes you look really weak and soft. And then you just send this armada over there. You pretty much put them in harm's way. And one of them, he said he was going to send it over there. He sent it over to Israel. So, we'll see how this plays out. But as of right now, man, you just got checked, man. If this was checkers, you looking at the board like, not checkers, if this was chess, you take a piece, you act like you about to take something, then you see, oh shit, if I do this, then he gonna take my queen. So you put that piece back. You're like, shit, okay, now you gotta think, you gotta go back to the drawing board. you know, and that's what's going on right here. China tells its citizens in Israel to be prepared for any escalation in violence. The Chinese embassy in Israel asked its citizens living in the country to strengthen their security precautions and emergency preparedness, citing rising security risk in the Middle East. That's right, where it all should take place. That's what we want to hear. But we know that, of course, the MOTB needs to be established first before these wars kick off. But simultaneously, in the AI sector, what's going on over there? Pentagon blacklists Anthropic, labels AI company supply chain risk. Let's see what this is talking about. As a matter of fact, Duck said something on True Social. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. So he wanted Anthropic, Pete Hegseth wanted Anthropic to give them full unrestricted authority, so they can pretty much have autonomous robots operating without any human input, because you want full these computers, these decisions are made so quickly. You don't want any that can cost you your life, especially at the high level that these AIs can think. Every second counts. They can compute a lot faster. So he's thinking, all right, I just want to give him the command. And once I do that, it just does what I tell it to do. And that's it. But they're like, nah, I don't want to give this nigga all that power. This nigga don't even look with the little bit of power he does have. And look how much. I mean, his popularity isn't that. I think I read something that J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom exceeded his popularity. It says the left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Yeah, Anthropic's doing that. Anthropic's going into these other countries and kidnapping their presidents and shit, right? Starting wars all in the Southern America. Who knows what you're doing in Nigeria? Last thing I heard is you brought troops over there. What are they doing over there? They're on vacation or something? Come on, man. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the U.S. government to immediately seize all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it. We don't want it. And will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. More threats. More threats, man. I want to be threatened no AI company, man. Fuck that. After I watched this movie, I think it's called Mountainhead. These AI companies are more powerful than your governments, man. That's where the real power lies in that technology. So if they got control over how these robots operate, imagine how much power they actually have. He wants full, unrestricted power. He got to ask them for that. What kind of society is that? So it shows you that, man. All this government shit is bullshit. And that's what that movie Mountainhead was all about. It shows you that the government isn't up to speed with like where technology is. Technology fully surpasses that of the government. He got to ask the company in order to make his military better. China's already way past that. So the duck, I don't think the duck really understands. I mean, he got some tricks up his sleeve, But when it's all said and done, man, you know, it's feel like it's gonna go by the script. You know, if you think about it too much, you're gonna feel like it don't even make any sense what he's doing because clearly you ain't ready to go to war. You ain't got you're gonna wait 6 months to get this company out of there and then work with another AI company and then phase them in. That's a lot of time, you know. So you probably got to cut corners with the next group of people you work with, and you know that's just you hastening your own destruction. Like AI is super brand new, and everyone's ready to use it at the highest level possible. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out of control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. And you didn't know that before you hired them and put them in the government and were using all their technology. Who knows what they probably already backdoored you. So meanwhile, well, this is the reason I'm bringing that out is because it shows that, you know, AI is being moved around too. AI company supply chain risk. Let me just see what this Axios says. President Duck said Friday U.S. government would blacklist Anthropic, and the Pentagon declared the company's a supply chain risk in the most consequential and controversial policy decision to date at the intersection of artificial intelligence and national security. The big picture, Anthropic rebuffed the Pentagon's demand to lift all safeguards on the military's use of its model, Claude, due to its concerns about the use of AI for mass domestic surveillance in the development of weapons that fire without human involvement. Yeah, mass domestic surveillance and development of weapons that fire without human involvement. So that's the big picture. For that, the government will now impose a penalty usually reserved for companies from adversarial countries such as Chinese tech giant. What? For that, the government will now impose a penalty usually reserved for companies from adversarial countries such as Chinese tech giant Huawei. By Friday evening, Anthropic said it would challenge any supply chain risk designation in court and rejected Hegseth's claim that military contractors would be barred from working with the company. Behind the scenes, Defense Undersecretary Emil Michael was on the phone offering Anthropic a deal just as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tweeted the company would be designated a supply chain risk, a source familiar told Axios. That deal would have required. So you're probably just trying to put pressure on them, going to court and doing all this dumb shit, man. You know. And plus, he told you when it came to morals, oh, I'll do, you know, whatever my mind. He said something when it came to his morals. So, you know, I'm just saying, man. You know, I don't really know too much about Anthropics, but that's what he wants to use it for. All this AI bullshit is. That's what it says. The big picture: AI for mass domestic surveillance and the development of weapons that fire without human involvement. So that's the type of tech he wants. The Pentagon has quickly moved on to OpenAI, and another source familiar said even though the company has familiar red lines and a robust safety stack to enforce them. So he must have bypassed all the safety procedures, man. It's unclear whether the Pentagon is still insisting on the legal collection of public personal data with OpenAI. You see? You think it's for military, you think, all right, they need that to go attack somebody else. We'll see. We'll see who's going to be mass surveillance. Maybe you're going to do it in somebody else's country. Who knows? we know Jacob's trouble, man. Second Esdras, the 16th chapter. They should be like madmen sparing none. Okay, a madman sparing none sounds like weapons that fire without human involvement. Okay, something that doesn't think like you can't plead with a robot. And that's what he's trying to implement, just like the scriptures tell you. Breaking it down following Duck and Hegseth's announcements, the Pentagon will move to sever its contract with Anthropic, valued up to $200 million, and require companies it works with to certify they don't use Claude in their workflows. There will be a 6-month. Hey, you just read all that in this post. But anyways, back to what's going on with China and Iran. It says China has sent attack drones to Iran as it discusses ballistic missile sales. China is stepping up support for Iran as U.S. strikes loom and warning the U.S.'s Arab partners. And I think this is the real reason why Duck is not attacking Iran. Because before they attacked, China sent a military plane over there, and it's been a change in their tone. So whatever, these must be some high-level drones that Esau ain't really got an answer to yet. That's why he's trying to push Anthropic to step up his game so he can meet the demand of force on the military field. You know, he's trying to catch up to, look at, if you look right here, this nigga it looked like a PlayStation, one of those PlayStation controllers type shits, man. These niggas like gamers, man. What the fuck is that? So they made the drones like fucking video games, man. So Esau's trying to keep up with the Moabites. China is delivering offensive weapons as well as additional defensive arms to Iran, with the U.S. on the cusp of launching an attack on the Islamic Republic. 3 officials familiar with the matter told Middle East Eye. One Arab official familiar with the deliveries described the offensive weapons as small systems. Another regional intelligence official said Beijing had sent loitering munitions or kamikaze drones to the Islamic Republic. Look at that. Kamikaze drones, that sounds pretty damn deadly. Especially when how many are you sending them? China likes to do things for cheap. They'll make the most out of that's a big ass drone. These are huge. Who knows? You get a fleet of those coming towards you. How can you defend against that? You got an Iron Dome against a bunch of bullets flying your way. They can probably, kamikaze drones, they probably just dive in and blow themselves up. That can do a lot of damage for cheap. These drones are probably expensive, but, in the grand scheme of using missiles and all that other stuff, that's cheap. I mean, a nuclear missile is a lot cheaper. I mean, more expensive than that. And it's cleaner. What does it say? A second Arab official who spoke with me, MEE, confirmed the deliveries of offensive weapons as well as air defense systems. Reuters reported in September that Chinese kamikaze drones appeared in Sudan's battlefield. MEE revealed exclusively in July that China had supplied surface-to-air missile batteries to Iran following the 12-day war that culminated in the U.S. striking 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. So since they bombed their nuclear facilities, they've been arming them with surface-to-air missile batteries. So it sounded like they were already giving them, they already been working with them. The 2 Arab sources and a regional intelligence official familiar with the matter told MEE that China has continued to supply air defense assets to Iran since the summer. The regional intelligence official listed the Chinese systems in Iran's possession as the HQ-16 and the HQ-17AE, supplying attack drones Could also be a way for Beijing to provide some offensive support to Iran while it weighs selling more sophisticated missiles. So they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money off Iran. They're probably giving them a good deal on it too, because it's strategically aligned with Chinese agendas. So they're giving it for a deal he can't refuse. MEE reported that Iran has paid China for the air defense systems in the form of oil shipments. It's unclear how Iran has paid for the loitering munitions. Yeah, well, just take out a loan like everyone else. The U.S. Energy Information Administration suggested in a report in May that 90% of Iran's crude and condensate exports flow to Beijing. 90% of Iran's crude and condensate exports flow to Beijing. So, yeah, Duck don't like that. Yeah, you don't like that. So, if China doesn't get this 90% flows getting from Iran, if Duck could stop that, Iran's super strategic, man. You get them, 90% of your crude oil comes from there. No wonder why he's supplying them with all this shit. It's in his best interest. Will Duck Z summit impact support for Tehran? Tehran's China and Russia ties. Let's see. I just want to jump down. I'll read a little bit of this. Notably, both Arab officials whose government are U.S. partners told MEE that Beijing informed their countries in general terms of arms deliveries that could be an attempt by Beijing to discover a U.S. attack and demonstrate it is prepared to stand by Tehran. And that's what they're demonstrating by supplying them with all this military capability. But I don't really know what Babylon has, but I'm sure they got some shit too. If they keep it, that's why you got to overwhelm them. You can't hit them with do blow for blow with them. You just lose mad people. That's why Esau's probably going to do an overwhelming strike. But you hit their nuclear sites. What about everything's underground? So, all their missiles and stuff, they ain't going to have that upstairs. They probably got some deep-ass tunnels that there's nothing you could do. Who knows? The Duck administration has assembled the largest U.S. military force in the Middle East since 2003 invasion of Iraq. Let me jump down to Iran's China and Russia ties. In the 1980s, Iran received HY-2 Silkworm cruise missiles from China via North Korea when it was at war with Iraq. The Islamic Republic used the missiles to attack Kuwait and strike U.S.-flagged oil tanker during the so-called tanker wars. In 2010, there were reports Iran received HQ-9 anti-aircraft missiles from China. But in general, China's weapon shipments to Iran were curtailed by a 2006 United Nations arms embargo. The embargo was reimposed under so-called snapback sanctions in September 2015. Russia defense ties to Iran eclipsed China's, but the relationship was rewired by Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, with Moscow diverting much of its attention to the battlefields of Eastern Europe. The Financial Times reported on Sunday that Russia agreed to sell Iran Verba, man-portable air defense missile systems. Analysis told the Financial Times that the short-range Verba would not be missed by Russia, which is exchanging long-range missile and drone fire with Ukraine. So, long story short, man, they got allies, they got weapons. It's not as easy as the Duck thinks, man. This is probably why he ain't attacking them yet. He would have been attacked their ass. All right. Grab some precepts. Let me grab over. I got to go to Joel, the 3rd chapter. So it's not just Iran alone having to deal with everything by themselves. They're getting support from 2 world powers. What's going on with now the blue letter's messing up? We'll be right back. Like, what? Yeah, Esau's going hard, man. Esau's going hard. Joel, the third chapter. Joel, Joel chapter 3. I never had to. We'll be right back. It's crazy. Joel 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, which are the heathen. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. So the heathen are prepared for war. That's why they're sending drones to each other. That's why the duck is, he ain't really, he's threatening and actually doing shit. I mean, he did things before, but then he saw how fast he was able to get back to where he was. It's like that attack, it showed you that's nothing. Yeah, you bombed them, and then what? They just start rebuilding, and then they're back to where they were a couple months before. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. So they beat their plowshares and the swords by sending over 90% of their crude oil to China. That you can use that the money from that to fund all different types of infrastructure programs, but they want military capability. Okay, let the weak say I'm strong. So they're saying I'm strong when they bringing out ballistic missiles. When you got to talk to them about negotiating, about not sending, making these weapons of mass destruction, which they claim that they're not, but everyone claims they're not doing something. You're gonna trust your enemy? Yeah, I ain't trying to destroy you. No, sir. You're not gonna tell him if you are or if you're not. But we know Esau had that same type of rhetoric before, so it could be a lot to attack him. And if Russia and all that is supporting him, Russia and China supporting him with kamikaze drones, that's probably why he's second guessing what he's gonna do. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Now the mighty ones are the Lord of the angels. Okay. So there's also a spiritual aspect to all of this to get the heathen prepared. The Lord is putting spirit upon these kings to get ready for this battle. So it says, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen. Heathen are these different nations outside of the nation of Israel that are preparing to go to war. They got military capability. And gather yourselves together round about. That's why you see China and Iran working together, Russia working with them, North Korea. He's also doing the same thing, testing missiles. It's all part of the heathen saying I'm strong, or gathering themselves together. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Now, the valley of Jehoshaphat is in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, which is going to pretty much be the battleground between Israel, America, Saudi, versus Iran, Russia, North Korea, China. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about, and can't forget about Turkey and Syria, all these different nations. That's going to be the war. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is.
Could you try again?
I ain't even talking to Syria, and she running her mouth. Bitch is always listening. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So the Lord's bringing all these heathen to be judged. So all of them are getting prepared to go to war, but at the same time, it's for their destruction. Multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision, and it's near. The Lord is mustering the host of the battle. We're starting to see that. The sun, and as a matter of fact, when Iran was getting these drones from China, but at the same time, Russia sent Navy over there to do military drills in the Gulf of Hormuz. All right, so that shows you that the heathen are being gathered together. That's why when you go to Ukraine, they will find Chinese soldiers, they'll find North Korean soldiers, And there was also reports of people trying to take jobs in Russia and being diverted into the war to fight on the Russian side. Imagine you try to take a job, you go over there, and it's the military recruiting you to go to war. One dude that he had a landmine strapped to his chest, and one of the Russians was screaming at him like, "Go on the front line, or I'll shoot you in the head right here." So war's not. It's showing you, man. This is serious too, but at the same time, it's a money maker. So a lot of these people making a lot of money. So right now it's like war posturing. All right, I know if I move this piece over here, okay, China was ready. Look how he shipped this. So it's like, okay, I see. Okay, he's gonna do this, and you start to kind of get a feel for the battlefield. How did he fly this shit over here? You take note of everything. Okay, well, this is the shipping route that he used. So a lot of this is a lot of reaction, cause and reaction. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. That's talking about the thermonuclear destruction. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So the Lord's going to be protecting his men, women and children. He got the elect. That's what we putting our faith in. So shall ye know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth out of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. So here it all goes back to Edom. Okay, Egypt is America, so Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, matching up with Isaiah 13, Isaiah 34. So it's all to bring Esau to judgment for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. And it's really a violence against the children of Israel. Okay, because same thing that happened to Judah, he slayed a lot of the northern kingdom too. But Judah shall dwell forever in Jerusalem from generation to generation, for I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. Yeah, I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed. How do you cleanse the blood? Numbers 35, verse 33. He's the avenger. You could read up more, but I'm just going to get straight to the point. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are. Numbers 35, verse 33, for blood it defileth the land. So he defiled the land wherein he is, which is America, with the blood of the Israelites. And the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So that his blood hasn't been shed for all the blood that he shed in the earth. And that's what the Lord is looking for him to get repaid. That's his, you sow wickedness, you get wickedness back. Well, not wickedness, but you get a reward, okay? You get a reward when you sow death, and that's what you get back. You sow death, you get death. You sow life, you get life. That's how it works. You sow an apple tree, you're gonna get an apple tree. Okay, same thing when it comes to what you do in the spirit. Talks about when you sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. So that's what he's going to get, his corrupted fruit that he's been sowing all through this time. Galatians 6:6, let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that it teacheth in all good things. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So you're going to reap what you sow. All right? For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So we sow into the Spirit. And how do you sow to the Spirit? You keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. You study, you seek the Lord, you pray, you fast, practice the righteous acts. Okay, you do everything that's pleasing to the Lord all the time to the best of your ability, and that's how you move in the Spirit. Okay, ultimately, you got to walk in faith that the Lord's going to fulfill his word. That's the most important thing. Because every day there's a sifting process. This devil's trying to sift you because that's what really matters. If he can take your faith away from you, that's more important than how strong you are or how many weapons you got. If you got faith, that's more powerful than anything. Matter of fact, let me see if there's a precept on that. Faith is more powerful, KJV, 1 John 5 verse 4, for whatsoever born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Let's get this in the Chat GPT. Some people don't like that I use Chat GPT, but it is what it is. It is what it is, man. I use everything. For whatsoever, it says the epistle was written by the Apostle John to the believers in the first epistle of John, encouraging them to remain steadfast in truth and not be deceived. For whatsoever is born of God spiritually begotten by the Most High through the Word. Okay, born not of the flesh, but of God, born again. This is speaking about the elect, those predestined to receive the truth. That's right. The spiritual regeneration, not physical birth, overcometh the world. Greek for overcometh means to conquer, prevail, get victory, nakeo. The world here is not the earth itself, but this present evil system. I don't know what that word world is. It's not giving me the Greek on it. So this is talking about overcoming sin, carnal temptations, wicked rulership, false doctrine, fair persecution, and this is the victory, even our faith. This is the point. The word for victory is Nike, triumph, conquest. What gives the victory? Faith. So he wants to overthrow your faith. Faith is what keeps the elect stable despite tribulation, persecution, economic collapse, temptation. So that's our strength. Like it tells you, Isaiah 33. I don't know why the blue letter's down today. It's the first time this ever happened. Isaiah 33, verse 6, but I still got my sword right next to me. So, I'm using this sword so people can see where the precepts at. Isaiah 33 verse 6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. He don't want you to be stable while he's causing all this chaos. So he wants your faith to be overthrown, and strength of salvation. So your strength is ultimately your faith in the Lord. That's your strength of salvation, is your faith. That's where your strength comes from. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. All right. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. All right. So he wants to overthrow you by taking away your faith. Spiritual meaning of this verse is showing only those truly born of the Most High, the elect, will overcome this current wicked system through unwavering faith. Ooh, let's look that up. Unwavering faith. Unwavering faith is an unshakable, steadfast, and deep-seated confidence in God's character and promises, regardless of circumstances. Yep, that's right. Regardless of circumstances. Let's grab this in the book of Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 1. in verse number is it one? No, it's not one. It might be three. I'm gonna go to 2 real quick. Habakkuk chapter 2. Nope, I think it is 3. Habakkuk 3. Yeah, Habakkuk 3 verse Habakkuk 3 verse 16. When I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice, rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself, that I might rest in the day of trouble. Talking about Jacob's trouble. When he cometh up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops. So this is talking about Jacob's trouble. Habakkuk's talking about how he was afraid when that his belly trembled. Your belly pretty much goes into your mind. My lips quivered at the voice, which is the voice is going into the prophecies. Rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself, so that I might rest in the day of the trouble. Because how are you going to rest in the day of trouble? You got to have strength in the Lord. We just read Isaiah 33 and 6. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of the times. It's not that you're going to be laid up, but you're going to understand what's going on. That's a form of rest. Now, with these people, they're not going to understand what's going on. They're going to be going crazy. You're here to witness the prophecies of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. They're here to be destroyed by the prophecies. They're here to witness the judgment of the Lord, and you're going to witness it. He's going to show you what he's going to do to your enemies in front of your face. He's going to show you that he's the God of Israel when he's putting people to death. When he's putting these damn heathen, these proud-ass Edomites and Ishmaelites and Moabites and Ammonites and all these damn heathen, man. You're going to be crushing them, dashing them into pieces with their own weapons. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall the fruit be in the vines, Habakkuk 3 verse 17, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the fields shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stall. So that's an economic collapse. That's a famine. That's talking about no work, no food. Okay. The labor of the olive shall fail. So it's going into just a full-blown economic collapse. No meat. No flocks cut off from the fold. No herd in the stall. So just economic collapse, nothing to eat. That's all part, and that's not even including the rest of the struggles you're going to have to go through. But the Lord said you're going to eat. Jacob's trouble also goes into that MOTB, which is pretty much the hour of temptation. Okay, when you're getting to the point where that's it. All the elect need to be faced with that hour. Having to take the chip. Now, some of us are going to be physically about to take it. Some of us are going to have the thought in their mind. The test is coming. Lord's going to have you in the wilderness. He's going to have you in a low spot. He's going to put your kids in a low spot, your wife in a low spot. And you got to make the right decision. And if you ain't being prepared for that day, then that means you pretty much already made your decision that you're going to take the chip. And it's pretty much by your actions. You ain't put off the world. You will constantly, it starts off small. You know, the Lord was just showing you little and little, chipping away. Your faith was being chipped away every single day, little and little. And that's what Esau does to you. He'd rather you put off this word and make the decision to make the weaker decision. I'm tired, or this, that, and the third. You ain't supposed to put the Lord off from day to day. You know, you're supposed to seek him 10 times more. Keep that rapport, keep that urgency that, you know, that you really want to get the hell up out of here. In Lord's will, he can deliver you in that time, but it's all if you the elect or not. Habakkuk 3 verse 18, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will joy in the God of my salvation. And that's what we're doing now. We're rejoicing in the Lord. Okay, we're boasting about the things that he's going to accomplish. You know, we can boast about these things because we didn't know these prophecies before. We didn't even know we were in captivity. I mean, some of us knew. But no one really could do it with, you know, through the Bible, showing like, yo, we're in captivity because of these curses. Not just because you pay taxes, and everyone has to do that, but it's deeper than that. Habakkuk 3 verse 19, the Lord God is my strength. See? The Lord God is my strength. So he's the one who's given you this faith as a gift, like it tells you in Ephesians 2 and 8. The Lord God is my strength. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. So it's a gift that he gives his elect. And he will make my feet like hinds' feet, and he will make me to walk upon my high places, to the chief singer on my stringed instruments. Okay, so pretty much, even though Jacob's trouble's coming, even though the famines and loss of jobs are coming, yet what I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. No matter what happens, we're going to rejoice in the Lord, going back to why you got to keep your faith in 1 John 5 and 4. They won't bow to the image of the beast, worldly philosophies, fear tactics. Their faith makes them spiritually unconquerable. So you don't want to be taken out. And that's what the system's designed to do. Babylon's designed to take away your faith from the Lord. Why wouldn't you fight for that? That's a question you got to ask yourself. Why aren't people fighting for their faith? It's because they really don't believe. Some people do things for other reasons. Where do I want to go? What was I just thinking? What was I looking at? Theme, precepts. Let's give me some more precepts. Born of God, overcoming, victory through faith. It's bringing me to Hebrews 11, enduring unto the end. That's another good precept. Matthew 24, verse 13. Fear tactics. I think I was thinking about the book of Luke 22. And I forgot where it's at. Maybe it's not Luke. Satan has desired to sift you as wheat. Luke 22. And, here it is. It's down low. Luke 22 and 31. I'll start at 30. Luke 22 and 30. That they may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom. Actually, I should start up more. Luke 22. In verse, I'll start at 28. Ye are they which have continued with me in my temptations, and I appoint unto you a kingdom as my Father have appointed unto me, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Right. So he's talking to his disciples. You know, they got the highest positions, but it also goes to his elect too. They're going to be sitting on thrones just as well. All right. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan have desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. Now, I can't go into my blue letter, but that word sift there goes into siniazo, which is to inwardly agitate you to the point of overthrow. So he's trying to overthrow your faith. That's the whole purpose of Satan. That's the whole purpose of Babylon. He don't need to kill you. If he can overthrow your faith, that's more effective than just putting you to death. And then you can overthrow yourself. But I have prayed for thee that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. So Yahushua is saying, I prayed for thee, which are talking about his disciples, ultimately his elect, that their faith fails not. So he's not praying for everybody. Okay, he's hoping that their faith doesn't fail. Let me grab this in the book of John 17. I'll start at the top. Actually, matter of fact, what time is it? Yeah, I'm just going to get to the point. Is there anything else that I forgot? Pentagon put scouts on notice over the... No. What's this? Bill Clinton's testimony about Epstein ties concludes after more than 6 hours. Yeah, Bill Clinton he basically said he didn't do anything, but you can't trust this nigga, man. And for some reason, he basically said that, yeah, the duck ain't do anything either. So he pretty much tried to make Duck look good. Former President Bill Clinton finished his testimony before members of Congress for the investigation over convicted sex offender Jeff A. The closed-door deposition ended after more than 6 hours of questioning from lawmakers about his connections to the disgraced financier. And that's closed doors. So everything's secret with this bullshit. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong. Yeah, you didn't get head from Monica Lewinsky. The former Democratic president said in an opening statement he shared on social media at the outset of the deposition. Just like his wife was saying, oh yeah, I don't know nothing about UFOs and Pizzagate. This is all, I don't know shit. The deposition in Chappaqua, New York, marks the first time a former president has been compelled to testify to Congress. It comes a day after Clinton's wife, former Secretary of State Hillary, sat for her own deposition, where she told lawmakers that she had no knowledge of how Epstein had sexually abused underage girls and had no recollection of even meeting him. Yeah, that's why your face looked like you're fucking 40 years old, but you're 100 years old in your body. Neither Clinton has been accused of any wrongdoing. Of course, they never do. They have been accused to a lot of different conspiracy theorists of being evil in these other countries. 2 measles cases confirmed in Massachusetts residents. Watch out. U.S. military used lasers to take down border protection drone. Lawmakers say they shot some drone down. I'm going to finish reading this later, but Spirit took me in another direction. But let me finish this. John 17. In verse number 5, and now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. So he wanted to be glorified like he was before the world was. Okay? And how was he glorified before the world was? It was not messing with Yahushua, man. He was perfect. Okay? He had all his power. And who was he asking for that power? He's asking his Father. And now that he's sitting on the right hand of the Father, we're asking him to ask the Father to give us the same thing. We want to be glorified if we're part of that number as we were from the beginning too. Go to our first estate, as the scriptures say. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. So that's talking about, ultimately it's talking about his disciples, but it talks about the elect too. Because they receiving the word in these last days, and they're doing exactly what they did in past lives, because the spirit of prophets are subject to the prophets. Okay, they're going to follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. They're going to keep the name. All right, and the name been manifested again to them through the word, and they're doing the same thing that they've been doing, prophesying. Now John 17 and 7, now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. And mostly talking about the disciples, but even the believers of the word. I pray for them, I pray not for the world. So this word world is cosmos. So he's saying he praying for his elect, ultimately his disciples, in context, but it's talking about his elect too. He's not praying for every Israelite just because you're Israel. That shit don't mean nothing. Okay, he's saying he prays for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. Okay, and this is talking about the first fruits, the elect. And all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. So the elect are glorifying Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, who he gave the name to. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee, Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, which is Judas Iscariot, that the scriptures might be fulfilled. And now I come to thee, and these things I speak in the world, that they might have my joy fulfilled in themselves, which is this word, which is to do the will of the Father. I have given them thy word, and the world have hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. And this is a beautiful precept, because it shows that a lot of people just hate them, man. They hate the elect. So it's a beautiful thing to see some persecution. Even though it don't always feel good, but it's a good sign of your goodwill on your side and evil on their end. But I'm going to end it here. Lord's will, this was edifying. Shalom.